Swamiji, when we speak of Ichha Shakti, does it refer to our ability to spontaneously entertain a desire or a desire to act that is consciously evoked? For example, a thought of an ice cream may pop in my head. Is that Ichha Shakti, or the thought that I want to eat an ice cream, that's Ichha Shakti?
Ichha means the desire to do something, the desire basically. And so, what was the distinction? I would eat ice cream.
So, suppose a thought comes in my mind that ice cream, I want to eat ice cream, versus me deliberately making a deliberate decision that my ice cream culture, I want to eat ice cream. Would that be Ichha Shakti?
Yeah. In fact, a deliberate Shakti generally means power. And so, when you make a deliberate desire, so you deliberately desire, I want such and such thing, I want to be such and so, that will be Shakti. Now, when a desire arises, then it's up to you whether to proceed with it, follow it up or not. But for you to desire that I want things so and so, I want this kind of, whatever, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, what you desire. So that is how you would call that the Ichha Shakti, the power, the freedom to desire.
I see.
Which freedom to desire other creatures don't have. They never desire to be different from what they are. Basically, desire behind the desires is to become different from what I am, because a desire presupposes some dissatisfaction with what is. A dissatisfaction with what I am would require me, would create in me a desire to be different from what I am. And dissatisfying what is around would create desire to change what is around. But basically, every desire arises from a self-dissatisfaction, which takes different forms under different circumstances. And this is a typical thing about human being. The human being is born with an awareness of lack or want of one's own self, resulting into dissatisfaction with oneself, and resulting in desire to find satisfaction in oneself. So you can say that the desire behind every desire is to find satisfaction in oneself, and that expresses in a variety of forms. So this is the power of desire, because of an awareness of the lack or want of oneself, number one. Number two, not being content with being limited or wanting, and then becoming free from lack or want. So this is the basis of desire. And so human being has a power, depending on what the interpretation is as to what will make me free from dissatisfaction. Desire takes a different given form for any given person, at a given time, any given place.
So Swamiji, in that regard, if there's an animal, a dog wants to eat a bone, that would not constitute Ichha Shakti.
A dog what?
If a dog wants to eat a bone, or if some animal wants to eat something.
Doesn't want, it just happens.
Okay.
In case of dog, there is this natural instinct of appeasing hunger, and so goes for what it considers as food. So yes, this ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunam, these instincts are there in all creatures. But desire to be different from what one is, desire to change what is. A human being will do something with the food which nature may have given. And so that's not, we don't find. So power to desire is the power to change, basically.
Thank you, Swamiji. The next question is related. When we speak of Agami Karma, does that correspond to both Ichha Shakti and Kriya Shakti, or only Kriya Shakti?
No, basically karma presupposes a desire. So here Agami karma does not so much refer to karma as well as karma phala. So prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, agami karma is true. Karma means action which will bring about result in future is agami karma. So it's karma only basically. And desire is something that is there by default. Because usually a karma is a result of desire. So that power to desire then results into karma. That's how you can call it Shakti, but Kriya Shakti. Ichha Shakti results into Kriya Shakti, perform karma.
So Swamiji, if I have a thought and it's a deliberation, I'm contemplating something, if I'm deciding to do something in my mind and I'm creating a mental framework, would that also be a Kriya Shakti?
Well, Shakti here presupposes a sankalpa or a will. When things take place by themselves, your will is not involved. So, karma is something that is done deliberately or willfully, is what we call karma. Otherwise, everybody performs karma. But other creatures don't perform karma willfully or deliberately. Karma happens for them. So, a lot of karma happens at our level also without deliberation. We don't classify them as karma because they do not bring about karma phala for the individual.
I see.
A karma performed deliberately brings about, then one is accountable for the result of the karma performed deliberately.
That makes sense. Thank you, Swamiji. My third question is with regard to Aparushetvam of the Vedas. The Aparusha. And so the question is, would it be accurate to say that the words and sounds of the Vedas themselves are not Aparushya, but the meaning is Aparushya? For example, if there were a mantra drashta on a different planet, the artha of the Vedas would be the same, but the Shabda and Bhasha may differ. For example, Satchitananda meaning would be the same, but the meaning indicated by the words would differ.
I didn't quite get your question.
So between the Shabda and the Artha of the Vedic mantras, would it be fair to say that the Shabda themselves are not Aparushya because they would be contextualized by the language that the Rishis may be familiar with? But let's say if there was a different part of the Loka where the Vedas were also revealed and they had their own notion of Rishis, the meaning of the Vedas would be identical across the cosmos, but perhaps it may not be in Sanskrit, it may be a different form in a different language, in different words.
The Paurushaya and Apaurushaya has nothing to do with the language. It has to do whether a given Vakya or a statement is a result of the deliberation of a Purusha or it is without deliberation. So Apaurushaya means that it is not even a deliberate Vakya by Ishvara. So Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that just as the out breath of a person is effortless, so also all the Vedas are comparable to out breath of the great Lord. Meaning that even as part of Ishvara also, there is no deliberation. So anything that is said deliberately we call Paurushaya. And that which is done without deliberation is Apaurushaya. Because when you deliberate and say something, it is going to involve the limitations of the deliberating mind.
Yes.
So Paurushaya Vakya is something that comes from the buddhi or mind of the Purusha, which will then be accompanied with the limitations of the mind. Apaurushaya means it is not a product of buddhi, of an individual, is not even of God. When we say God, then it is omniscient, so it is not individual buddhi. So Apaurushaya means the Vakya which is not accompanied by the limitations of the buddhi. Then it becomes pramana. Any Vakya which has limitations, so buddhi of the human being has defects. Ignorance is one defect. Viparita buddhi, wrong conclusion is a different defect. Our limited means of knowledge, so we can only contact only a limited part of anything that we see or experience. And so what our sense organs convey to us is only a limited part of what we experience. So many limitations are there. And then of course a wrong thing we taken as right also, viparita buddhi. So all of these are the possibilities of a limitation of human intellect or any intellect.
Right.
So Paurusha means that which is not a product of an intellect. It has nothing to do with the language.
So Swamiji,
it has to do with the source.
Right. So Swamiji, in that regard, we see that in the Vedas there are many geocentric or earth-centric ideas, such as reference to Bharat, reference to Ganga, reference to Saraswati, and so it seems to be very earth-centric. And so if the same knowledge as universal truths of the Vedas were revealed to different rishis or to different loka, then these references would not exist. So I'm trying to understand that could it be such that the knowledge that the rishis received was aparusha and it was not deliberate because it's Ishvara's breath, but the words in which they were able to communicate it were conditioned by the language that was familiar to them, the Vedic Sanskrit language?
Well, again, language has to be there in one way or the other. That is not the criterion in determining Paurusha or Paurushayatva. It is true that these knowledge was revealed to the rishis, and rishis had a given orientation, and therefore there would be a given language, and there would be a given context, and given situation, time, place, etc. And likely that if that knowledge was revealed to some other rishis in some other place, which all this adherents of all traditions believe that their scripture is Aparusha, revealed by God. If you accept that claim, then Bible also falls in that category, in which case it is revealed to someone who is a Rishi and who becomes a medium, let us say, of communicating to people what Ishvara has revealed. So it's revealed knowledge, basically.
I see, Swamiji. So my fourth question is, do Sattva, Rajas and Tamas retain their individuality in Maya when the Jagat is avyakta, or do Sattva, Rajas and Tamas also become undifferentiated when it's unmanifest?
Yes, they become undifferentiated in state of pralaya, state of cause, avyakta. So avyakta has the potential of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, but not manifest, like in deep sleep. When you wake up, what was there, potentially there, becomes evident when you wake up, or even in dream also.
I see. Thank you, Swamiji. My fifth question is, we refer to Kal as Jagat Bhakshaka, and Jagat implies Akash as well. So can we draw an Arthapatti over here that Kala being Jagat Bhakshaka is more subtle than Akash? Because when we talk about an order or krama of manifestation, we say from Maya comes Akash, Vayu, etc. Does this further imply that time manifests before space because a krama is implied?
So, well, many Puranas describe Kala as a creator or destroyer also. So what Kala means is the principle of change. Whatever is created will change and perish. Basic principle. And so the principle of change is called Kala or time. So time is the concept of change that is associated with everything that is created. What is created will perish. In that sense, that change you can say result of time, and so that is how Kala or time, which brings about change or deterioration, is responsible for ultimately the perishing of everything. So, if you look at the Jagat as constantly changing and rushing towards this perishment because it is created, and so it is as though rushing towards destruction someday or the other. Although A scientist would say there is an expansion, then contraction, etc. But built-in is the ultimate end. Something is created, an end is built in there, and what happens? So that change is what is the nature of everything that is created, and what brings about that change is called Kala.
So, since Kala brings about change, when we speak about the Panchabhuta model, Kala is implied as existing before space as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, space is an element here. So, in the state of Pralaya, Kala also is there potentially. A manifestation, and Kala manifests, and then everything manifests.
Nice.
So sometimes Desha and Kala, both of them are said to manifest together.
Yeah.
Maya kalpita Desha Kala Karna Vaichitra Chitri Kritam. So between Desha and Kala, together they bring about all the creation and everything else. And so usually the concept of time goes with space. Although the element Akasha is called space, in the olden days it was translated ether.
Yeah.
Because space is not an element. In fact, Charvakas don't accept it as an element. They only accept 4 elements. And some other Vaisheshikas also accept 4 elements.
Do Charvakas not accept it because it's not Pratyaksha, it's not...
Yeah, in Vaisheshikas also I have 4 elements,
Okay.
if I remember. Because Akasha is not perceptible.
Swamiji, this is a contentious topic usually, but what is Swamiji's take on organ donation? Should the body be offered to Agni during Antim Samskara intact, or can organs be removed for donation prior to the offering for Antim Samskara?
I think looking at the present condition, organ donation would be in order. In those days, the concept of organ donation was very primitive. There are cases of organ donation in the Puranas also. The king called Shibi, he donated to this, what was the bird? Eagle. Which was, so Agni and Indra were actually debating, and about this King Shivi, to what extent he can go. And so Agni, I think, became that bird, eagle or another bird, and he kept on giving up his flesh from his body. So there are a few cases like Karna gave his kundala and kavacha. And so there are a few rare cases there of organ donation, if you want to say. So idea of organ donation is not totally absent, but the question of organ donation was not there. What do you do with organ?
Right.
Now you have the science to use that organ. Those days you can say that, for example, there were sages, this Ashwini Kumar. There's a story that Ashwini Kumar were given the Brahma Vidya by Indra. And Indra had told them, if you reveal this to anybody, we'll chop the head. And so that's how Ashwini Kumar then chopped the head, and then the knowledge was given, the head was brought. So knowledge was given, head was chopped off, Ashwini Kumar brought back the head. So if you want to call it organ donation, or plastic surgery, whatever it is, a lot of Puranic examples are there. But as I said, the idea of organ donation was not practical, there was no use of organ.
Right.
At that time, the science had not advanced. I have not studied the old surgery of Sushruta, etc., whether they transplanted organs, I do not know. They give example of Ganapati, etc., but there are Puranic examples. But the organ donation had no role to play, I should say, in a simple way. So the concept of organ donation was not there. Now it can be done. So now offering the body to fire is said to be the last oblation. This man was performing the Agnihotra karma throughout his married life. Now at the end, what does he offer? He offers himself to the Agni. So that is the final offering. So therefore it is offering is a principle in cremation also. So organ donation, I think we can interpret the self-offering and can be accepted, can be justified.
And Swamiji, when we say that dhanam should be given to the appropriate recipient, what would happen in the case if your organs get donated to somebody who indulges in criminal activity, or like how does one account for such nuances?
You are not doing anything, you are just offering it. Where it goes, somebody else decides anyway.
Right.
It goes to a pool, from there it is donated. It's not donated to a criminal, donated to a human being in need. So, not a criminal. So that is quite all right. You are giving to somebody who is in need.
Thank you, Swamiji. And one last question I actually had was, as far as freedom is enjoyed, how different would the freedom for someone who is technically a perfect karma yogi with total antakarana shuddhi differ from somebody who's a jnani? So let's say if there's a perfect, hypothetical perfect karma yogi, but he still has avidya, the knowledge has not taken place. How would his experience freedom differ from one who has self-knowledge?
There will be relative freedom. If you accept ignorance, then you have to accept some element of ego and raga dvesha also. To that extent, there will be a sort of conditioning of the freedom. You use the word perfect karma yogi as one. You use the word perfect, then the karma yogi becomes jnani only.
Right. True.
Perfect. So Lord Krishna would say that tasmad asakta satam kayam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purusha. Third chapter. Asaktaha karma acharan, performing karma with anasakti, a person gains the parama. So there Lord Krishna says that even karma yoga leads to moksha. Let's say Shankaracharya, they won't accept this through jnanam, but anyway, so karma yoga creates definitely the ground and automatically desire for knowledge will arise. That's called antakarana shuddhi. And so then the what is necessary of fulfilling desire, that also will happen.
Right.
Who are given that desire will also create the necessary conditions to fulfill that desire. So that should happen today or tomorrow.
So, may I ask a final bonus question? So,
It's not final, you can ask any questions,
Okay, then I'll try a few more. So, one question is, oftentimes in our sampradaya, we don't hear the distinction between jnani and jivan mukta being highlighted. But some references, some sources talk about like these sapta jnana bhumikas, 7 different levels of jivan mukti and so on and so forth. And I just wanted a little more understanding on those things.
When you use the word jnani, we should understand a wise person abiding in knowledge. Ideally, knowledge should be spontaneous knowledge. Until there is sab-pratibandhakam jnanam. There is knowledge with pratibandhakas. And last pratibandhaka is dehatma buddhi. So abiding knowledge is that knowledge free from all pratibandhaka, all dehatma buddhi. That is the abiding knowledge, in which sense of individuality doesn't remain. So that jnani is jivan mukta. Jivan mukta is a wise person with abiding knowledge. Then you can, that is the fourth bhumika, they would call it. 5th, 6th, 7th are optional, because whether you become like a stone and so forth and so on, and somebody has to feed you, that depends on who is interested in that kind of thing, I would not be interested in a state when you become a stone. And all right, maybe that represents a greater degree of, but I would suggest that you say you have abiding knowledge, Atmaniva Atmana Tushta, you are content with yourself by yourself. So that is what is sought. And therefore, as long as your vyavahara does not in any way obstruct the manifestation of that santosha or contentment, so long vyavahara is not opposed to mukti. Vyavahara is not opposed to mukti, and therefore a person can be jivan mukta and do vyavahara, or may do whatever the prarabdha determines for that person.
So Swamiji, for a person who's attained jnana at the 4th level and he's qualified so that there's no further rebirth for this person, is it a deliberate choice to go to the other levels, or is that on account of the prarabdha that one would just rise to those?
Every choice also. Choice also.
So choice would still exist even post that?
Choice in the sense that depends on your samskara, depends on your teaching, upbringing, etc. Then that could have been created in you. Then what is the goal? If the idea of goal is that 7th bhumika, then there won't be a choice or a desire. If the goal is jivan mukti, and then perhaps that the need may not arise, So that depends on the samskaras also.
So Swamiji, that ties to another question that let's say we have a jnani who wants to do Jagat Kalyanam, he wants to do something good for the benefit of mankind. Would that be a desire that has been cultivated prior to jnana, or can one still have new desires which are dharmic desires even post jnana?
You see, desires unopposed to jnana can take place. Because in Taittiriya Upanishad, so kamayata, Ishvara desired. The moment you use the word desire, then comes a need and comes incompleteness, and Ishvara and incompleteness cannot go together. So how to explain that desire? Ishvara desire, may I create, so kamayata, bahusyam, prajaya, Taittiriya Upanishad. So Bhashyakara explains that that desire is in keeping the nature of Ishvara, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. That desire which is totally devoid of any kind of personal agenda. It's a desire to fulfill only agenda of jivas. So desire which is free from any personal agenda is not opposed to knowledge, and it's not that a wise person desires to desire. It will take place by Ishvaras. He has become an instrument in the hands of Ishvara. So what the wise person does is decided by Ishvara rather than by himself or herself. So it can be, depends on the prarabdha and personalities. If wise people look different in their activities, etc.
Swamiji, is Ishvara's desire literal, or do we say it's metaphorical? Because, for example, when we talk about the Jagat manifesting, one account would state that it is because of the collective prarabdha karma of all the jivas, which is propelling the Jagat into manifestation. Is that something we can equate to as like a metaphorical desire of Ishvara, as an allegory?
Yeah. That first desire of Ishvara is the sum total of all the desires of all the jivas. In that desire is contained all the desires, so that when that desire unfolds, it ultimately results into the creating the ground for fulfilling the desires of the jivas.
Swamiji, if Ishvara's desire would equate to the collective desires of all the jivas, then how do we account for even the adharmic desires of the collective jivas not reflecting as, again, Ishvara's desire?
Right. Well, basically Ishvara's desire is for the well-being of all. If the samskaras bring about adharmic desires also, then also in course of time that adharmic desire may result into adharmic karma, may result into karma phala, into suffering, which may in course of time bring about a transformation.
At a cosmic level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cosmic level.
This is very helpful, Swamiji. I don't have further questions at the moment. But
All right.
at the moment.
Yes, sure. No problem. As long as you are here, you are welcome.